Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford CDC, and today we're taking a look at the Rosecraft Blades Mosquito Lake Moose. This is the RCT 016. A moose is a two-blade pattern that has two full-size blades on it. Typically you'll see two different blades as well on a moose, and in this case you have a clip point and a spear point. Very cleverly here, Rosecraft reusing some blades from their other models. The clip point coming from their Otter Creek Barlow, I believe. Might not be from that exact knife, but it does resemble it the most, with that downturned belly of the blade and the nail nick being on the flat here. That large swedge with the way that swedge terminates is a little different than it does on their Coke bottle pattern, which I cannot remember the name of for the life of me. And the spear point blade quite obviously coming from the Nolichucky Jack, which overall the profile you can tell is similar but different. Of course, there's some different angles going on here. Things are different, definitely canted a different direction thanks to the design of this. This is 4.1 inches closed with 7.3 inches of an overall length when one blade is open. Of course, it's much longer than that, but you'll never have both blades open. Each blade is 2.8 inches, both in D2. These use the moss brown bone. Again, that's something that the Nolichucky Jack also used. It's a nice color. I like that they call it moss brown because it's definitely somewhere between green and brown. There's no doubt about that. It is quite a pretty color. It's got some nice depth to it. This bone has some nice texture to it as well. A very cool piece overall. This is based loosely on a tree rand pattern, so an old Boker pattern. It's kind of where Andy Armstrong, the designer and owner of Rosecraft Blades, got the design inspiration for this guy. Now, this, of course, doesn't go without saying thank you to Rosecraft for providing this knife for passing around and getting this on to the next person. You can see both blades are nice and centered. Everything has a nice tight fit and finish. There's no issues here. Visible seams, but no gaps, no differences in height. Everything feels and looks pretty good. And these also have good walk and talk, both of these blades. You know, I always wish these knives were a little snappier. They always feel like they've been a little over tightened, in my opinion. Decent jump to the half stop. It's much better on the clip point in this instance. And then we're going to close as well. You can see you got to get pretty far down with that spear for it to jump. The clip point, same, but not quite as bad. Certainly not that either one's bad per se, but just like to see a little more snap into those positions. Like I said, like the half stop, the close is okay. About the same on the spear point, though I do prefer the action of the clip point. Now, something I've talked about before, my personal preference with these Rosecraft blades is I wish that they would move their nail nick down. It just becomes a little bit difficult to open these knives sometimes, especially because the nail nicks aren't cut particularly deep. Now, I doubt that I'm going to be able to show this off very well. Well, you can see pretty good, but that's not a super deep nail nick. Now, I'm not going to pull out a custom or anything to compare this to, but I can grab it. Now, I don't really have any good comparison. I was going to say grab a GEC, but you're talking about a much more expensive knife in that instance. But you can see that that is not cut extremely deep. Not all that much room to get your fingernail in there. I don't have the longest fingernails by any means, but you can see I'm bottoming out that nail nick, and there's still plenty of room before you're actually hitting my finger. The long pull is the same way, though you do have a little bit more of an area to grab closer to the tip, which helps with the leverage that you need to be able to easily open a knife, especially a slip joint. When you have a nail nick that is located upwards towards the heel of the blade or towards where the tang is, you have a lot less leverage. You need leverage from down towards the bottom to make it easier to open. Now, they have pretty strong springs on these, and as I said, they are always nice and tight. So when you have the nail nick up here, it can be a little bit difficult to open sometimes, especially in the case of a 2-blade model where you cannot pinch the blade open. I think that is something that to keep in mind that I would just love to see changed in the future. It doesn't make it a bad knife. It doesn't really change much of anything, though if you do have more difficulty opening knives that are of stiffer pulls and have nail nicks that are located too high up, then you might have a little bit of a problem with this guy. Now again, there's nowhere to pinch down here. Really not going to be able to pinch this knife open. You can try, but it's really just not going to work, at least not on the clip point here. Now if the nick was located a little further down, maybe a little bit tougher to get to if you have shorter nails because it's not as exposed. A deeper cut nail nick somewhere down here would give you a lot of leverage, and it's just how much easier it is to open it from that position opposed to being down here. Now the spear point, you can probably, yeah, you can kind of get in and pinch. It's definitely still tough, but you know, again, you kind of want to land where this nail nick is, but since this is so much further along the blade, you're talking about the nail nick for the spear point is essentially just this bottom half, which is much harder to get out than the top half of the long pull. So that's just something to keep in mind, that if you do have a little bit of difficulty opening, maybe stick to a single blade or one of the knives that has a long pull from Rosecraft. Overall though, as always, great construction, nicely fit and finished, blades come nice and sharp, and it's just a nice, budget-friendly, well-built slip joint overall. These are $64 on the Rosecraft website, so if you're looking to pick one up, you can find them there, as well as many of their other knives, including some models in stag and other kinds of bone in some wood as well. So take a look at the Rosecraft Blades website if you're interested in picking one up. I want to say thank you guys for watching, and thanks again to Rosecraft for allowing this guy to get passed along to a whole bunch of us. So thanks again. Hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.